Oh, what's going on, GameLeapers? This is the JIZX, and in today's video, if you want to know some low-key broken picks you have to play in each role, then this is the video for you. So for the next 10 minutes, strap yourselves into that gaming chair of yours and engage the brain. Now, some people tend to think that this is like a champion pool guide. It really isn't. I'm just going to give you 3 champions you could potentially pick this patch because they aren't necessarily giga OP, but they are OP enough to give you a great chance of winning. And let me just say that I've got a variety of picks for each role. So if you're playing top lane, you've got some AP, you've got some bruisers in there, a tank. If you're playing jungle, same thing. So this isn't a one-dimensional countdown, alright? There is some variety, so if you do like playing a specific playstyle, there should be something in here for you. Now, there's also going to be something for you on the GameLeap website. You know why? Well, the JIZX is on there as well, uploading daily content, so if you want a bit more JIZX in your life, get signed up. But the rest of our challenger players and coaches, guys, who are part of the GameLeap family, also upload daily content, up to 20 videos a week that are designed to help you improve and climb on the rift. So do yourselves a favor and get signed up. Links in the description and comment section. Alright, so let's get into the video, guys, and I want to upload this kind of early this patch so bro guides can copy it like they do the rest of our videos, and we're going to start in the mid lane and talk about the 3 low-key broken mid laners you should pick up. Now, the first one we have to talk about is RYZE, and thanks to the recent HP buffs, RYZE is actually back on the menu. Now, the Everfrost buff as well, because it's now 200 gold cheaper, means that as a scaling mage, you're getting to that mythic power spike quicker, which is really important for RYZE. Because of the recent nerfs to Phase Rush and Seeker's Arm Guard, you are a bit more vulnerable in the mid lane, so getting to Everfrost, getting to that peel, that root, that slow earlier is going to give you more chance of survival and setup for kills for your teammates. Just please remember that if you do pick RYZE, to play at range. Now, let's say you don't want to play that much of a scaling mage. Let's say you want to play an AD mid laner who does really well against mages, and that's because of his pushing power, and this is TRYNDAMERE. And I'm sure you've all seen Nemesis play this guy in the mid lane recently, and it's a bit like playing Nocturne. Because of your sustain in the lane, because you're maxing your Q first, you cannot ever get shoved out of it. You just auto-attack minions, you spin to win, and if you ever do take a bit of damage, you can just press Q and you heal it all back up. Also, against AD champions you're great against, because if you think of Zed, Yasuo, Yone, these champions have a lot of 100 to 0 potential, but with your ultimate, you completely counter them. So if you want a champion who's going to definitely scale, because it's almost impossible to bring you down in the early game, then TRYNDAMERE is definitely the champion to pick. But let's say you don't want to play TRYNDAMERE or RYZE, the founders of League of Legends. Well, the last recommendation I can give you guys is to play ANIVIA in the mid lane. Now, ANIVIA, ever since Riot changed her in the preseason, where your autos are quicker, where your frostbite's damage is doubled, even if your Q just clips an enemy champion, your ultimate as well being on a later cooldown in the late game, so you almost have us up permanently. These are huge changes, and these are still in the game. And with the recent buffs to the Mana Mage mythics, so Luden's Tempest, Everfrost, Leandra's Anguish, because like RYZE, you're getting to these quicker, you are just way more of a force. And you also have a lot of kill potential in the laning phase, which some people don't really understand, because of that frostbite damage proccing off your Q. She's also pretty noob friendly because of her passive, so if you do hit the deck, that egg is going to bring you back to life. So ANIVIA, guys, comes in as the #1 most low-key broken mid laner for 11-14. Now let's switch it up and head to the bot lane and talk about the 3 AD carries you should consider playing for 11-14. And the first one, you guys are going to flame me for this because I said APHELIOS was one of the worst champions in the game, right? Now he is in lower elos, I still believe that, but if you can actually pilot APHELIOS to a respectable degree, you are actually pretty scary to play against in the bot lane. And the main reason for this, guys, is because of the recent buffs to your attack damage and your lethality. Because if you think about APHELIOS, the reason he hasn't really been that strong is simply because he doesn't do enough damage. Well, now because 2 damage stats for you got buffed, you are now in the mix and actually viable. But the thing is, APHELIOS is very hard to play. Like, there's a big difference between one of the best APHELIOS players and just someone who's starting out. But if you can understand that weapon rotation and what your weapons do, you are going to have success this patch. Now, let's say you don't want to spend all that time learning a champion. Well, I've got a champion for you, TRISTANA. And TRISTANA is amazing for all elos, guys. So if you're bronze in Brazil, if you're challenger in Korea, TRISTANA is going to work. She has incredible kill threat because of Halo Blades and her E. The amount of damage you do is insane. She also has great peel for herself, and in this meta, if you're playing an AD carry who can fend for themselves, this is a real bonus because you don't have to rely on your support to do well. So TRISTANA comes in as #2. You can't really go wrong. Now, the best AD carry you can go wrong on, but she has the most potential to carry games, this is JINX. Now, I think we all know why JINX is good, right? The buffs to her rockets range, the buff to her rockets not reducing her attack speed as much, and also the buff to her base HP mean that she's harder to push out a lane, she's even more of a lane bully, and because your laning phase is now kind of like secured, you can get to that mid to late game, which is where you really pop off with a few items in there. Also, with Shrelia's battle song still being pretty good, with Lulu and Karma in the bot lane, the movement speed these enchantresses can give you is so useful. This stacking with your passive as well, it just makes you the ultimate late game hyper carry. So JINX comes in, guys, as the #1 low-key broken ADC for 11-14. Alright, so let's head to the other solo lane in the game, guys, and talk about the 3 most broken champions for the top lane. And coming in at number 3 is QUINN. So if you want a range champion who can dominate the top lane and then the game afterwards, then QUINN is the ideal pick. And what's great for QUINN this patch, guys, is a nerf to Stridebreaker, which is one of the most scary items to play against in the top lane as a ranged champion because of that slow that Darius, Garen, Set, Gnar get when their use is active. But now the slow is down to 40%. So this used to be a decaying 90%, now it's just 40%. And this item also used to have a dash, it no longer has one. So for QUINN in the top lane, it's actually very safe to play. And these champions who do build Stridebreaker pretty much have no opportunity to actually get onto you and win the lane. They just have to sit there and just take it. Now for sure, there is a bit of pressure on you to win the laning phase because when you do pick QUINN top, you are expected to win that lane. So if you can't handle the heat, don't pick her. But if you do want to 1v9, if you do want to have the potential to hard carry from the top lane, then QUINN, honestly, very hard to beat. But maybe this next champion beats her. Now, if you want to play an AP bruiser in the top lane, guys, you have got to pick GWEN this patch. Now, one of the reasons I love GWEN is because I'm a big fan of Ignite and Teleport as your summon spell combination. You don't really need your flash, so Ignite gives you that kill pressure you need in the laning phase to start a snowball, and TP is just useful for your tempo in the lane and for cross-map plays. And for GWEN herself, with the new Riftmaker, which is enhancing your trading, and Nash's Tooth as well, which is actually pretty OP at the moment, like if you think of Diana jungle, Katarina mid, even Kayle, GWEN as well falls into that category. It's just a great synergy with AP champions who need on-hit and attack speed. So GWEN comes in, guys, as the number 2 top laner to play in 11-14, especially if you need some AP in your team. Now, the number 1 top laner, this might surprise some of you, but TRUNDLE is being played a lot more in the top lane, especially in higher reloads, because people are starting to realize how OP he is when you pick the troll with Divine Sunder. And after this, you have a variety of options, which I love. So Divine Sunder, of course, this is important because of the sheen, which procs on your Q. You can go with Titanic Hydra, which is giving you AD and HP. You can even go with a new Hull Breaker item, which is going to enhance that split pushing power of yours. So if you've got a feeding team, this is the build you want to go. You can also go with Boar if you're going to be fighting an enemy champion for an extended period of time, especially a champion with lots of HP, because you're going to rinse it. And you can even throw a Wit's End in there if you're against the AP top laner, maybe someone like GWEN, or even Frozen Heart if you're against a team with a lot of auto attackers. So for TRUNDLE, the sustain in the laning phase, the dueling power, even the setup with that pillar that comes out of the ground, he's very menacing. And he's even been picked in some pro games recently, which is pretty random as well, but honestly, not really that random. It's understandable. So TRUNDLE, guys, for 11-14, the number 1 low-key broken top. Now, the next 3 champions we're going to cover reside in the jungle, and coming in at number 3, the 3rd best jungler, is TALIYAH. Now, I put TALIYAH in the top 20 champions video for 11-13, and to be honest, I still think she's broken. Like, let me just put it this way, in Master and above, she has a 58% win rate in the jungle, which is the highest on the Rift. And there are 2 reasons for this, in my opinion. One of the reasons is the jungle changed from a few patches ago, where camps now respawn every 2 minutes 15 seconds. This means that as TALIYAH, because you're so good at ganking and roaming around the map, you have more opportunity and time to do so. So there's actually less of a cost now to doing it. So this playstyle is just better. Also, the buff to Luden's Tempest, where it's now 200 gold cheaper, this is just ideal for a champion who hits so hard in the mid game, and with Sorcerer Shoes in there as well, the movement speed from your passive, you get around the map so quickly and can dominate. So TALIYAH comes in, guys, if you want an AP jungler, as the 3rd best. Now, beating her to the number 2 spot for the low-key broken junglers, it is KAYN. And even though you can still go with Prowler's Claw, guys, which is kind of bad now because it only procs on enemy champions, so you can no longer Prowler's Claw to a minion or jungle camp, which was actually kind of useful on KAYN. The better build to go is the Gore Drinker RYZE build, which is giving you a ridiculous amount of sustain, but it's also giving you the HP, the ability haste, and the attack damage you need to still do a lot of damage and hit hard. And then whatever you really pair this with, whether it's Black Cleaver and Sterit's Gauge or Manamune and Serpent's Fang, which is an interesting setup if you're against a lot of shields, RYZE KAYN is just a weapon at the moment. You're still a very efficient clearer, your team fighting is nuts, your ganks are pretty potent as well, of course because you can just travel through walls, and in a solo queue environment where it's very hard to peel you because there isn't much coordination, KAYN is the 2nd best jungler for this patch. Now, the best jungler you guys can pick, and this might come as a surprise, for 11-14, it is SKARNER. And the reason, guys, that SKARNER comes in at number 1, okay, the Dead Man's plate buff this patch kind of helps, but not really. The real reason lies in the mythic setup you have, so you can choose Chem Tank, you can choose Divine Sunder, you can choose Sunfire Aegis, depending on what your team needs and what enemy champions you're against. But when you pair this with Anathema's Chains, which is the new item which reduces damage from a selected enemy champion and also reduces their tenacity and max stacks, for a champion like SKARNER where you can just perma-root someone and with your ultimate as well, the synergy is unreal. And if any of you have played SKARNER with Anathema's Chains, let me know in the comments how OP it is. And even in high elo, guys, SKARNER at the moment has one of the highest win rates going around, so definitely pick him up because I think it's that broken, something might get nerfed here. Now, as we head into the 3 best supports you guys can pick for 11-14, it is the JIZ's last friendly reminder to remind you about the GameLeap website, to subscribe to the channel, to like the video if you're enjoying it, do all of those things, guys. It helps us out a lot. But yes, as far as the website goes, champion courses, guides, videos, VOD analyses from high elo, showing you what the best do that you don't do, this is going to help you improve tenfold. So get signed up, guys, links down below. Now, the third best support you can pick for this patch is Maokai. So if you want a support who's really annoying to play against, but also has a lot of kill threat with your flash twisted advance, then Maokai is the support for you. With Imperial Mandate that procs on your Q, your W, your E, and your ultimate, so all your abilities proc its passive, with your AD carry next to you, you can one-shot pretty much anyone in the bot lane. Like even an Alistar with his ultimate, you can probably one-shot. Oh, maybe not to that extent. But yes, the kill threat is real. And once you get Demonic Embrace and Morello's or whatever else you get after that, you're just always going to be useful. Even if you do run it down in the early game, you're always going to have that kill threat because you are Maokai with Imperial Mandate. So Treebeard comes in as number 3. Now, the second most low-key broken support you guys can pick for 11-14 is Senna. And for Senna, guys, even though Divine Sunderer got nerfed last patch, right, so you're dealing less damage based on the target's maximum HP, you can still build Divine Sunderer with a Ginsu's, a Rapid Fire Cannon, or you can choose to go with Black Cleaver still and then Ginsu's or Rapid Fire after that. But the best build statistically at the moment is with Kraken Slayer, Ginsu's Rageblade, and then Rapid Fire Cannon, which used to be the old setup. And because Senna is now viable as a support because you're getting more gold from your race, and because you're going to be stacking these more often because of the buff from 11-2, this just means that support Senna, you know, it doesn't really matter what you build, you're always going to be useful. But let's say you want to play a really viable support, guys. Well, the number 1 support you have to pick in 11-14 is BRAUM. And the reason BRAUM is so good, well, it's very simple. Think of the best AD carries at the moment, right? These guys are pretty immobile. So if you think of Kog'Maw, if you think of JINX, if you think of Draven, you are, in my opinion, the best peeler in the game because of your passive. So one auto attack onto an enemy assassin or bruiser who's diving onto your backline, you can stun them and just completely cuck their threat. But also, even with a Tristana, even with an all-inner ADC like maybe Kai'Sa, you are also great because of that engage of yours. So your Q, your passive as well comes in really handy offensively, and your ultimate. BRAUM just pretty much has it all. He brings so much utility to a team, so you guys have to consider picking him this patch. So those are the 15 best champions, guys, for each role to play this patch, the most low-key broken. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let us know once again by leaving a like down below. And until tomorrow's video, this has been the JIZZ. Bye.